Hello, I'm Zerganat. Welcome to the studio. So, we're going to do some more on the Gibberer, working more on the teeth again. Get the mouth finished. And I need to make a bit of a lip around there. But, yes, so flat chisel, and then we'll also need out a knife. So, I'm hoping to survive the stream. That sounds melodramatic, doesn't it? But I'm developing a sore throat. So it may well mean that I will need to stop. Because I won't be able, if it carries on, I won't be able to talk. Well, it wouldn't necessarily be advisable to talk. Which actually may mean that I won't be able to stream tomorrow. But we shall see how things go. But in the meantime, one of the things I've been doing today is thinking about smart homes, which is an interesting concept because a lot of the smart home stuff that you see on the internet in the shops at the moment is anything but smart. And there's a lot of stuff that gets badged as smart home stuff, which really isn't. Or at least I don't believe it is. And you've got a lot of these light bulbs, for example, which you can control from your smartphone. Your Android or your iOS. And they're labelled as smart. Not quite sure why they're labelled as smart. You've got a really expensive remote control. Okay, your remote controls are intelligent, but so are some others that you can get. Having an intelligent remote control doesn't make the device smart. So I find it rather amusing, all this push, all this stuff about smart homes, and you know what we're talking about is a remote control light bulb. Now that's an interesting concept in our household here because yes, I have a smartphone. It sits on my work's desk, charging when I'm in the house. I don't carry it around with me. I guess a lot of people perhaps do, but I don't. So I could imagine it's getting, you imagine the scenario, it's getting dark, or it is dark. Oh, I just have to go walk to the other end of the house to pick up the remote control to turn the lights on. And then put it back because it wants to be on charge. I don't carry the phone with me while I'm in the house. So it's Oh, I want to dim them. I want to turn them off. Walk to the other end of the house, pick up the remote control, turn the lights off. Now of course you just turn the lights off so you can't seem to walk back. What's smart about that? So I don't particularly think much the smart products on offer these days. They are literally just glorified remote controls. I mean, if a light was smart, why does it need a remote control? Because if it's smart, it'd know when it needs to be on and when it needs to be off. You know, like it's getting dark. You're in the room, so it wants to be on. If you go out of the room, it doesn't need to be on, it should turn itself off. Why do you need to tell it? Now that's smart. There's quite a few things like electric switches as well, also labelled smart the same way, and they still need a remote control. Yes, it can be your phone, but they need a remote control, or you touch them on the front. What's smart about it? And these particular ones I was looking at don't even give any feedback to your phone or whatever that they have actually done what you asked them to do. So you are relying on them being smart, and yet they might be dumb and not done what you wanted. Because I quite like the concept of smart homes. It's something I've been looking at for a while. And light switches and things like that, but then it would have to be, the smart bit would have to be the light switches, not the bulbs, because it doesn't make the bulbs expensive. And yeah, it's great having a light bulb that you can switch on and off from your mobile phone. But what happens if somebody who doesn't know, or just somebody who forgets, switches a switch off on the wall? It doesn't matter how smart the bulb is, how smart your phone is, how easily they talk to each other, it still doesn't work without electricity. Not very smart. So the smart thing is to replace the light switch, not the bulbs. And that's one of the things I've been looking at. But looking at ones that also tell the controller whether they're on or off. I mean, what happens if you get a light switch, one of these intelligent light switches, you know, and your bulb blows? Now you can't tell if the light's on or off, so you've got to be careful when you switch the bulb, especially if you're not in the UK, or you've got these screw fittings, because the screw fitting is live. Well, it should be neutral, but somebody may wire things wrong. So you're playing around with a live fitting, and that doesn't seem very smart either. So I'm kind of only interested in smart stuff that tells you. But then, once you get some stuff like that actually tells you, then you can start to do the smart stuff. Like, you know, turn lights on and off, so you know you can have something that senses how light it is and switches the lights on. All the lights if you need, or just a few, or just the ones where somebody's in the room. But then you get into the interesting problem with smart homes. With truly smart homes, that is. How do you tell if somebody's in the room? And ideally, how do you tell who it is that's in the room? Now that's the really interesting question, because that's the holy grail for smart homes. Because if you can tell whether somebody's in the room, you can tell whether you need lights, for example, or even the television, But if you can't tell if they're there, then what does it do? Just leave the lights on command? Well, that's halfway to being intelligent. But it then relies on a person saying so, instead of you just being able to just walk into the room and have the lights come on. And then you get into all sorts of interesting ways of starting to detect that. And there's things like the infrared detectors, which are great, but if you ever watch one of those, you'll notice that if you sit for a while, it stops detecting you. So you don't want it to think you've gone out of the room and switch the lights off. That might be a little bit inconvenient. That might be inconvenient, having the thing suddenly switch the lights off when you're in there. Sit quietly. If you've gone to sleep, it might not matter, but if you're wide awake, perhaps you're reading a book, and the lights go off, that's a little bit awkward. It leads to the things that you see in offices sometimes, with people sat there waving their arms trying to get the lights to come back on. But so you then have to start to think about having other things. Now, some things that people have tried, for example, is your smartphone. So if the whole family always carries a smartphone each, then you start to be able to say, oh okay, well can I see them on Wi-Fi? Well, unless you've got a big house, Wi-Fi doesn't work, it just tells you whether they're in the house or not. So it's a great way of telling when somebody's in the house if their smartphone, because it doesn't tell you if they accidentally left their phone that day. There's nobody at home but the phone is, so all your lights stay on and everything else. Not very smart. I know some people sort of would go, well, you can count people. As they go through a door, count them. Yeah. But where do you position a sensor to count somebody? And what do you actually count? And how do you get around the fact that two people can go through the same door at the same time or close enough together that a sensor can't tell them apart? Instead of one person, it may be one very wide person. Another way that's being done is using beacons in a room. These are Bluetooth things, Bluetooth low energy. And your phone, if it detects a beacon, does something. Basically says, hey, I can see this beacon. So you know where that smartphone is. Again, you know where the phone is, not the person. But you still sort of getting there. It becomes a little bit more specific, but you still can't tell if they're actually in the room or just in the room next door, happen to be picking up the beacon. And what happens if they don't have a smartphone or don't, like me, I don't carry one. Well, one of the ways around is to reverse that and have the person carry a beacon. Now that's starting to get more like it. Because you can sort of put Bluetooth receivers in rooms in strategic places where people might be, like just through the door, for example. And then you start to infer things like if you see the beacon in one doorway and then you see it in the next doorway, then obviously the person has gone through, but you can't tell if they turn around or anything like that. Hello. You've made a house and fence, but you've got a bug. Well, it's the garden, you see. All sorts of bugs in the garden. But it sucks having to do it again. That's a bit of a pain. I've been thinking about smart houses today, and how the fact that most of them aren't, and most of the products in the shops for smart homes are anything but smart. And how one of the biggest problems in a smart home is telling where people are. I know that's not the type of bug you're talking about. But it sounded funny. It's my sense of humour, you see. Okay. That link says the screenshot was removed. So I'm back to carving teeth again today. Yeah, so that's the biggest problem in smart homes these days, is telling where people are, and ideally who the person that you think is there is. One of the biggest hurdles at the moment that they're trying to overcome. So you're designing the gate in this particular case, I take it? An interesting house as well. I can't see any details from that, but it's interesting. What? Why I opened it twice? Yeah, sort of. Are you doing the 3D image just for the fun of it, or do you really need to persuade the customer what it looks like in situ? Because I'm just thinking, commercially you're spending quite a bit of time to do something, so you'd expect it to be worth it. You want the order. Okay, well. I can see that that as a point, but it's kind of counterproductive if the order is, you know, I don't know, €200 profit. I have no idea what it is, but you spend €300 in persuading them to do it. Unless, of course, your time is currently completely free. I kind of have to think about that sometimes if I'm doing a commission, like a pyrographic commission, and somebody goes, "Can you show me what it's going to look like first? And can you draw it first?" And it's kind of like, well, I can do, but I'll charge you another £50 for doing it. And I'm usually not happy about that. It's kind of like, you want me to spend a couple of hours drawing this out twice? You know, once for the pyrography and once for you to look at first. And it's kind of, you want me to do that? I can do it. You'll need to pay for it. It's a lot. Yeah, a lot more. Okay. In which case it's probably worth it. Mind you, in the past it has been kind of fun in somebody who wanted, who basically insisted I make a drawing first, but wasn't going to pay for it, and I just said no thank you, and they kind of said, well, I've got this other artist who will do it, and they charge less than you, and I go, and at that point I went, okay, in that case you don't need me to do it. Go get it from them. And then about a week later they came back asking me if I could do it because the other person couldn't, or they didn't like it. I can't remember what it was now. And at which point I just said, sorry, I'm now booked up, I'm busy, can't do it. I could at the time, but I knew there were going to be a problem because of that. You know, when somebody decides to go somewhere else and tries to threaten you with it and then comes back, it usually means there's going to be a problem. So I tend not to take those on. But that is one benefit of not relying on pyrography, I guess, as a source of income. You had to ruin one side to get away with it, but you did. Okay.
Gentle whispers in the past.
I wonder if I can get a small tool in there. Let's find out. Yeah, we can. I forgot to get the vacuum cleaner out. Oh well. when do you find out if your design was successful and they've placed the order, Wolfie? Okay. Yeah, you get on with it. You get on with it. Get it done. No problem at all with that. So it's kind of funny that whilst I'm working on financial databases, I spent today, as I mentioned earlier, thinking about smart homes, and the other thing is about engaged model railways. And engaged model railways is something there's another one of those things I've wanted for a long time. It's not so much that I like playing with trains, it's that I like creating models and controlling them. It's like the remote control. I like making them. The fact that I would control them is one thing, but it's doing it in the first place. And model trains is kind of like the same thing. A long time ago I used to have a train set. As a kid, I used to have a Hornby 3-rail model train set. They are now very rare and worth quite a bit of money. But as is usual with all the things you had as a kid, they kind of vanished. And I still to this day I cannot remember where the track went. And I do still have one of the engines. Beautiful engine. 3-rail of the Mallard, the World Land Speed Steam record holder. And unfortunately I've lost the tender, which is a real pity because it would have made the engine and the tender together worth quite a bit of money. Like lots and lots of money. But unfortunately I've lost the tender. But I've kind of, even back then I was kind of fascinated by sort of things like the electric control of the points and things. Well, must be almost 2 years ago now. One of the things I did was a Kickstarter backing for somebody who was making a model train in N scale. N scale at the end refers to 9mm, which is the distance between the rails on the model. I see there's a difference between end scale and end gauge. End gauge is end scale, but end scale is not end gauge. End gauge is 9mm between the track. But end scale is 2mm to the foot. Now that may seem the same because the track is 4'6" wide, so it may seem that they're both the same. But a narrow gauge railway, for example, would have what you might call a double O gauge engine on an end gauge track. So that would be a double O scale on end gauge track. So, but end gauge railway on end gauge track, and it's something I've been kind of since I backed the Kickstarter. It actually failed at the time, but they did it another way. So I am still waiting for the delivery of that engine, but it will probably sit on the shelf until I eventually get around to making a model railway. But that is something that I want to do: scratch build a model railway from scratch. Kind of like to build as much of the scenery and the buildings and things as I can, rather than buy kits or pre-made stuff. And that will probably be a rather long-term project, but it'll be lots of model building, so actually creating things. And then I want to make it so that the train, there's a computer, if you like, controlling all the trains, so I don't have to play with them, they just play with themselves. Corn mussels, hello, howdy. How are you doing? I am carving teeth. I really ought to get out my air-powered tool to do what this does. Just so that I'd be able to say I'm using a dentist drill with a dentist drill. Because that's what it is. So this exercise here is really just about making the teeth stand out a little bit and look dangerous. So lots of points, because pointy teeth look sharp. Nearly. You also get to see some carving with a knife. Well, I could quite easily have done this with a scalpel as well, but the knife's just a little bit more convenient. Not normally how you end up using a knife for carving, but it's doing this job rather nicely. Come on, detach. Thank you. Nearly. Do I put another two? Okay, let's try. Ow. Got to be a little bit more careful with this because this bit here is part of the blade, and that's just as sharp as the tip is. You're eating lunch. It's what, 10 to 8 p.m. here in the UK, and you're eating lunch. Although, I guess if I'd had nothing to eat all day and I was just having my meal, I might call it lunch. I know you're joking, but it's actually been a while since anybody's come in and said I shouldn't be doing it that way. I'm looking at that. Do I need another tooth on the top there? No, I don't. No, I don't. That's fine. 10 to 1 p.m. Okay, so you are what? 7 hours behind. Oh, I'm no good with time zones. Right, so one of the things I wanted to do here was to make the mouth, or the throat I guess, bigger. Because at the moment it kind of looks like he's swallowed a mouthful of construction foam. In fact, one of the things I might do later on is apply some pyrography inside the mouth and make it dark. Now the only problem here, I'm doing this but I forgot to get the vacuum cleaner out, which means I'm going to have a load of dust here that I can't actually get rid of out of this bowl. And the nice thing with this is I don't have to be too careful about doing this, because the cutting bit is on the end of the shaft, and that shaft won't cut wood, so I can just run it along the side of the teeth and it will cut the depth, but I won't actually destroy the teeth, which is fantastic. Mountains, you're in Arizona. Mountain time zone. You guys over there got so many time zones. Even in the same, I was about to say even in the same time zone there's different time zones. But don't deal with the work-wise, I don't deal with the States very often. In fact, I actually deal with India more often, and that's kind of odd because the I think it's Delhi. The time zone there, I think, well, was it 5? It's a half hour out, which is, usually with time zones you're used to just going plus or minus so many hours, like 7. But over there you can do about 5.5 hours. Now they're ahead of us, and it's a bit kind of weird when you start having to add half an hour. Just relax, Wolfie, just relax. Well, walk away for a few minutes, come back. I don't know why, for some reason, Arizona always makes me think of lowlands. relatively flat rather than mountains. So, creating a nice little wood flower here. Oh yeah, I mean it's it's always the same. I mean, I live in the UK, obviously. Well, obviously, it's not obvious, but I do. And in Yorkshire, we've got the Pennines, as well as the coast. And relatively low flat lands and things like that. And but I mean, when a lot of people think of Yorkshire, even in the UK, think of it as moorland, as not exactly scrubland, but moorland and hills and stuff. And there's some places which are extremely flat, and there's not a lot of moorland around, but except when you go towards the Pennines and things. But the Pennines are the highest place in the main island. I'm trying to think, Isle of Man, I think it's got the highest mountain, but it's one of the highest places, and it's people sort of kind of what I was doing, I guess, stereotype a place with something. So Wolf has been designing gates. I've been thinking about smart homes all day whilst doing my actual job. And what else was it I was thinking about today? Oh yes, model railways. What have you been up to then, Corn Muscles? Right, I'll vacuum all of that out of there later. Right, excuse me, I'm going to have a drink because I'm going to sore throat and I don't want it to get any worse. Well, hopefully it's not going to get any worse, but I'll keep drinking. Just so that talking doesn't make it any worse. Right, the other thing I was going to do was to make these background areas here deeper. But I'll switch cutters for that. I'll use the slightly larger one because we get more. Well, I'll use this one down here, and I'll switch to the larger one because we get a more interesting effect with the larger cutter. Yeah, did you know, corn muscles, that Wolfie there is a world famous designer of things? By digging that deep, it means I can carve this down without hitting the background and therefore make it look a little bit more sort of three-dimensional. You like some relatively complex shapes, don't you, to assemble? I mean, that little bump in the middle. Mind you, I guess it's just an angle grind on a square bar, isn't it? But there's a lot of welding in there. Okay, so I switched to a larger cutter here because it gives me a rougher texture, like at the top here, which is kind of it's slightly off centre as well. I must have bent it slightly. That's what the chattering is. Yeah, for the background it gives me sort of what would be described as a grey background, a neutralish background. It's not smooth, and yet it's not extremely rough either. problem with smooth backgrounds when you're carving is getting them smooth. And if you only get it sort of half smooth, then it kind of stands out as being not completely finished. So there's a lot of carving going on here, you just can't see it because of all this flour. Liza, good evening. Shall I tell you the reason why it sounds like a dentist drill? Because it is. This drill on the end is a dental drill. It's a carbide cutter. It's quite a big one actually, so it would this sort of cutter they perhaps use on carving false teeth or crowns rather than actual teeth, but something like that one would be used in somebody's mouth. Well, not this one because it's not sterile, etc., but they are dentist drills. And actually this tool is used by dentists. This particular one isn't the manufacturer, but there are manufacturers using exactly the same handpiece. And the other drill I've got is actually a dental drill. It would be used by dentists. It's air powered as well. And that one whines like the high speed drills at the dentist. That one really does whine. This one is making a noise like it was, that sort of squeaky noise, just because I think I've bent it slightly and it's vibrating. I shall try not to push it too hard, then it won't chatter quite so much. It was actually an interesting conversation with the dental supply house when I bought the bits, because I ordered, well, I was ordering quite a lot of them, and they kind of said, "Are you setting up a new dental practice?" I said, "No, I'm setting up an artist studio." Which kind of amused them somewhat. Why would it give you nightmares? You know. I mean, after all, you now know an alternative use for these. So the next time you go to the dentist and you hear this sort of noise, it could well be that he's in his back room doing some carving. And that's not actually too far-fetched. a friend of mine who used to be a dentist, one of the things he used to do is he was very much into electronics, and so from time to time he'd need to sort of take a chip off a board, for example, to repair it. And rather than trying to desolder it, what he used to do is take it into work, and in his lunchtime, using the not the bits that he actually used on patients, but like ones he kept for it, stick one of his own bits into his dental drill, the one that they use in the back office, not the one that they use in the surgery, and would cut all the legs off. But of course you've got the sound of being in a dentist without him actually being in a dentist. Actually, what I was just about to do was to just push that further down in there, which might help stop it chattering quite so much. There we go. So there you go, Layers. I have now solved your nighttime nightmare problem by just readjusting the bit. For that then I apologise. This is actually the quieter of the two. And if I was using a Dremel, you probably wouldn't be able to hear me speak. What you'll have to do is go to sleep imagining something else. Mind you, I mean, can you imagine going to sleep imagining this fella? That would be a vivid dream. Yeah, no, I understand. Although it is strange. It's not so much the sound for me; it's the smell of a dentist that bothers me. It kind of still bothers me. Although, as I say, a friend of mine used to be a dentist. I used to go visiting, to have lunch in his office with him, and even then I'm less bothered by it these days because of that, but even now it's still a smell. Back then I used to hate the high speed drill and like the low speed drill. These days it's the other way around. I hate the low speed and I don't mind the high speed. It's amazing how things change between sort of kids and adults. That's not very nice, Wolfie. When you get those sorts of vivid dreams, that sort of thing is decidedly unpleasant. You know, I think for that, Wolfie, what you ought to dream about tonight, you know, is a design for a gate that keeps looking like a door, because you just can't get it right, and you've got a customer that you really want to buy this, and they're giving you 4 seconds to finish it, otherwise they're going to walk away, and you've got 20 minutes worth of work to do. And eventually you get it all joined together, and you put it up and it just falls flat on the floor and collapses into a pile of bits. Oh, I don't know. I can have another go, you know, Wolfie. I'm sure we can, between me and the stream, and the chat, we can come up with a few nightmares for you. You know, like every time you go to a piece of metal, it's 2 inches too short every time. Or you could, you know, imagine that the day after it's been made, and you tell us on the stream, we go, you did see the massive flaw in it, didn't you? Yeah, but it would be a nightmare. That's what nightmares that partly are. awfully long time actually since I've had a nightmare. Which for some reason is an elastic band. The dreams I like best are the ones where I can actually fly, you know, like a bird. You just stick your arms out and take out and just take off, and you sort of fly around and just soar and enjoy that sort of dream. Don't know where that comes from, other than I enjoy flying. But I know this other claim it's kind of like escapism or something, but I don't know quite what it's supposed to be escapism in from. This cutter is actually relatively blunt. Excuse me. You get dreams where you can breathe underwater. I don't think I've ever had that sort of thing. Excuse me. That's the dust from this. Making me sneeze. No, I don't think I've ever had any underwater dreams. Kind of the same thing, I guess, in some ways. Flying over water over them. Thank you, Liza. I've had real experience of being underwater. I did what would you call it? A scuba diving experience, I guess. Sort of a one lesson type thing. And that was, or part of that was out in the sea. And the thing I found really fascinating, because it was abroad. That has meaning on the internet, isn't it? When I'm talking to somebody from sort of Arizona and Netherlands and all over the place. Somewhere that's a lot warmer than the UK. It was over in Greece. And the bit that really got me was being underwater and watching the fish sort of come past. Because when you're under the water, you don't see the water, and it's just like this fish is hung in mid-air. It's just like being stood here now and a fish goes past you. No wires above, below, or no sticks holding it up, and it just kind of blows your mind that this thing is just going past you. You can't see the water, and that was the bit that got me about scuba diving. Was that it's absolutely fascinating thing to do. If you get the opportunity to experience it, it is worth doing. If only just to try it out. I don't think part of the start of it was done in a swimming pool, and it's not quite the same as being out in the sea where you actually can see the fish and things. So. I did think. I did think about it was a few years ago now, taking my private, or going for a private pilot's license. I never did, but I was kind of more interested in actually gliding than power. I kind of like this silent flight, silent-ish flight. I still have not decided what to do about this jewel. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts as to whether it should be there or not. I still can't decide. Sometimes I think it should be, and other times I think it doesn't really add much. And now this is, I'm carving quite a large area here. I could do this with the chisel. It'd be a bit awkward trying to get in into the bottom, and I probably still want to stipple it with this afterwards, so I'm getting a bit lazy really. But that's the whole point of power tools, isn't it? So you can be sort of lazy about it. Oh, is it in 15 minutes? Ah, that should be interesting. He's launching one of his cars, isn't he, if I remember rightly? That'd be an interesting one to actually be on at Kennedy to watch. It's a real kind of comic book type rocket, isn't it, if you think about it? Because I mean, up until the Falcon, rockets didn't land, especially on the tails, apart from in comic books. And now, I won't say it's commonplace, but it's sort of not as fantastical as it used to be. There's a heck of a lot of stuff that was once fiction and is now real life. I mean, the one that's often quoted is Satellites with Arthur C. Clarke, first writing about them in his books before they ever existed. And he was writing about big communication satellites, which are now commonplace. And you get things like the mobile phone, which was inspired by Star Trek. I mean, you've got, that's something that even well, in my lifetime, if you like, you would not have even thought people would be carrying phones around in their shirt pockets, trouser pockets or purses. Even when they came out, you'd have been laughed at for saying something like that, because of course they were. I mean, the description of them was handbag portable to start with, because the battery pack was the size of a woman's handbag, well, man's handbag, with the handset on top, and then even the small ones were the size of a house brick. You young guys these days are living in what is kind of a relatively amazing age. I mean, I've seen in my lifetime things change completely. Television go from black and white to colour, from sort of in the UK 2-3 channels to what 50, 60 that are available now on digital. You know, turning off the analog TVs. I remember them turning on colour, and they've turned off the analog. Even the moon landing. The internet, of course, something that was nothing, didn't exist, and now is the biggest network in the world. Companies like Google, when it did start with Apple computers was a garage-based operation. It's still kind of mind-blowing. And when diesel was something you put in tractors and lorries. You put that stuff in cars. Not that I'm one of these people that go the good old days, because of course there's no such thing. There's always something about them that wasn't so good. And of course some of it depends on your point of view. I mean, the telephone used to be something everybody had in their hallway, and if you wanted to use it, you had to wait while somebody else had stopped. You didn't carry your own personal one, which is now kind of... is it better? Sometimes. I mean, certainly, if you want to buy things, the internet has been a really significant change. You're able to, even if you don't physically buy something off the internet, look up and research and find things that you just would never have known even existed before. I mean, it's not that long ago when before video on the internet, because bandwidth stopped video on the internet until relatively recently. And it's kind of like more video gets uploaded onto the internet in a day than in almost the complete history of film. So it's just such massive numbers. So if you ever want to turn a piece of wood into dust, this is a good tool to do it with, although it does get boring after a while. You probably, if you've got a lot to do, you'd want to get a bigger cutter and a bigger bigger motor. Oops, there's it. That was me catching the collet on the wood. So I kind of actually scratched it, but it's not really a problem. So this stuff really is dust. Well, I know it looks quite thick there, but it's a really fine powder. And this is it just clumping together because it is actually damp. Because the wood has got some liquid in it, and it does tend to sort of cause it to leak out when you do this with it, and especially if you squeeze it slightly. Which is what I was just doing and picking it up. So if I was about right, launch time would be about now, Layers. I don't know if you're still listening. How's it going? You know, I was just thinking that, oh no, I was about to say then, you know, if they did actually launch a car into space, they'd be able to drive it with it being electric. But then of course the thought crossed my mind is the battery would freeze, and I don't mean the big drive battery, I mean the little 12 volt battery that's at the front that runs everything, and without that the car won't actually start or go. But apart from that, and I guess vacuum welding and stuff, they'd actually be able to drive an electric car in space. There was a carve advert once where, I can't remember what it was, but there was the astronauts in a car. I mean obviously it was a mock-up, but you could almost actually do that now, especially if the heavy lift there works. Actually be able to put astronauts in a car in space. That's kind of a weird thought. Right, what I need to... I've got to remember to clean this bush out before I use it on pyrography, because all these dust particles stick to the pyrography and either change its colour or the pyrography, when you heat them up, gives a real sort of weird effect. Nearly. I may have to stop to let this dust. I really ought to get the extractor for doing large. When I'm doing large amounts of this stuff. I'm doing two things here. One is sort of just making a more of a crisp side. Than you get with the rotary tool, and also just thinning, shifting. This is sort of thicker than this, so I'm just adjusting the thickness, but the work was shifting in the vise just then. I mentioned I don't like this vise. I can't really get in there to tidy up those edges properly, so what I'm going to do is use the power tools to do it. Oh, yeah, let's try and do this one down here as well. Spicy shifting. I need to do a bit of cleaning up, really. Oops, oh, that's so big. Okay, need to work on that. But we'll get the other bit out for that. We'll go back, switch back to using a small. Actually, I'm going to switch to a more aggressive cutter. Inverted pyramid for this, just to get in here. switch to the other one. The flat-sided tools and things are great if you want to work vertically, but if you want to work on a slight angle like this, then the round tools are better. Just because you can tip them over and it makes no difference to them. Chiseling that. Okay, let's do this back. Oops. So you put it in the right way round. Stick that out a little bit. Really should pull that in further, but this bit is not deep enough to go all the way to the bottom. No, okay, that doesn't look too bad. Right. Well, we are now at just after 9 o'clock. So that will be it for tonight. And I've got to get rid of all this dust, especially what's in the atmosphere. So remind me tomorrow night not to use the power tool. Hopefully I can stream tomorrow night, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm getting a sore throat. Hopefully it will go overnight and I won't have it tomorrow. Because if I do have it tomorrow, I may or may not be streaming, but I will, as usual, let you know. Certainly on a tweet, and if I can on the channel page here in Twitch. So if you're not following me, perhaps you'd care to push the follow button and get notified when I do go live, if I do go live. Hopefully it will be tomorrow night, as I say. If it is, it will be soon after 7 PM UK time, that's GMT or UTC at the moment, as I can manage. Basically that's subject to being able to have a meal before I start the stream. And then we shall carry on with some more of this Gibberer, although tomorrow we'll probably be getting the chisels, using the actual chisels. And doing some more hair probably, and possibly eyes and nose, but we are getting relatively close to the end of this. There is some more power carving to do with the name there, which I need to put back on before I try and do that. Sit down and draw it out. And then we have, well, I say we're getting near to the end, but then we're going to decide what to do with the jewel. Do we keep it or do we lose it? Oh, actually we've got this back frame to do. Yeah, we're nowhere near finished. Forget that. We might be near finishing the centre bit, but we've got all the stuff around it to do. Yeah, Wolfie, thank you very much for dropping in, and everybody else that did as well. Core Muscles, if you're still around, Layers if you are also still around. I shall look forward to seeing you on the next stream. Bye for now.
I'll forget